Asked this question so many times, so I thought I'd give you like the ultimate oily skin girl routine so that your makeup is left feeling flawless all day with minimal touch-ups. I would say my ultimate oily skin girl primer would have to be One Size Beauty, the Oil Sucker Primer. It is a small tube, so I feel like you would go through these quite quickly. I mean, I've only had this a week and I have gone through like half of it. A good alternative is the One Size Secure the Blur Primer, or also my tried and tested, absolutely love, Cocoa Gold Primer by the Beauty Crop. For reference, I'm just going to stick on the Cocoa Gold just over my face because we're going to build this as we go along. I feel like foundations are a really difficult one because you've got skin tints, you've got SPFs, tinted SPFs, you've got foundations that are liquid, you've got foundations that are primer. So it's really hard to know what to go for. For the ultimate oily girl routine, you would go for the Bare Minerals Powder Foundation. This is an OG. I've used this for years and years and years. I feel like it went out of fashion and all of a sudden everyone had it again. And I'm like, I've been using this since secondary school. If you want a more kind of full coverage liquid, then House Labs. I absolutely will die on the hill that this is one of the best foundations out there. I absolutely love this. If you want more of a glowy girl skin tint without going too heavy on the glowy girl, then you want to go for the Kylie Cosmetics skin tint. I use the shade 6N. I'm going to go with my House Labs today just because it's a full coverage liquid, which I feel like more people will use, so we're going to go for this one. Now with your House Labs, it's really important to decide how you want to apply this. I either use a brush or I go in with a sponge. I find that a sponge works better for me. I can't be one of those girlies that puts their foundation on with their fingers. It's just, it's not me, but I find using a sponge, highly recommend the Clomana one, is really good just to get that even coverage. With concealers, it's again really hard to know what your favourite is. Again, it's just a personal preference. I absolutely love the Lancome one. I've got this in so many shades. I also use it for my contour a little bit as well. If you want a more budget friendly, then the L'Oreal True Match is one of my favourites. I have this in the shade medium and this in the shade Bisque, which is like 320035. Again, concealer, I feel like it doesn't massively matter. It's what kind of is a preference for you. If you want a more kind of heavy coverage pot concealer, then the NARS pot concealer will be your best friend. To keep this one budget friendly, I'm going to go in with the L'Oreal. Now, I just pop this in the creases of my eye. I try not to go too heavy because you find that if you've got oily skin, the more product you put in, the more you're kind of going to end up absorbing. So you want to keep it to a real minimum. So we're just going to dot a tiny little bit just where we need it. Now, again, this is down to kind of preference. I blend my concealer with my Real Techniques fluffy brush, but you can go in with a beauty blender as well. I just find that I get a little bit more kind of coverage out of using a brush with this one. But again, down to preference. Sometimes I use my brush, sometimes I use my beauty blender. For contour and bronzer, my absolute favourite is the Made by Mitchell Curve Case. There are alternatives if you want something more premium, then Chanel do like a balmy bronzer. Love, if you want something a little less premium, then you could go for say like Maybelline, L'Oreal, but this is my absolute favourite because it has a blush and a bronzer section in it. I feel like this is just multi-skilled. I love this one. I feel like, again, it's down to preference. It doesn't really matter what you use for a bronzer, but if you're going to use a bronzer and you are an oily skin girl, don't go too heavy on the powder because you'll be going to be going in with powder later. So make sure you do use like a balmy liquid bronzer. I personally would say, because I think too much powder, the more oily your skin's going to get, and you want to save your powder for your setting powder. Right now, you probably are feeling more oily than when you started, but it's a trust the process sort of thing because we're moving on to setting powders. Now, absolute favourites, One Size is just brilliant for those oily skin girls. I feel like this really does give. More budget friendly options, Trigwell Cosmetics and the Vitamin Babe powder by the Beauty Crop. This is in the shade pink. This is also in the shade pink. This is also, funnily enough, in the shade pink, just because that is my colour preference. Now with this, you want to go in with a powder puff. Powder puffs I absolutely swear by, Trigwell. You can get the mini ones or you can get the big ones. I love both. For under the eye, I always go for the mini. If you want to set the whole face, go for a large. But just today, we are going to go in with the One Size one. Now, just taking that powder, you are going to press underneath the eyes. It looks a lot at first, but it's a trust the process sort of moment. Now, I like to just lightly dab the powder everywhere. That's just because if I'm having an oily day, then I need to know that that is secure. Now, let's just do half the face just to see how much that mattifies and controls that oil. Can we tell the difference between that and that? I feel like Patrick Starr has really done something with this. But again, budget-friendly options, Beauty Crop, Trigwell Cosmetics, I feel like they do ones just as good. For blush, there are loads of options on the market. It depends whether you want to go balmy or you want to go powdery. I would say go for a good in-between, which I find the NYX Buttermelt ones are really good. They have a really good shade option as well, and they are really pigmented. So that's just a tiny bit that's been blended into my hand as well. And can you see how it adds that colour without compromising that powder, without kind of adding too much kind of dewiness to the skin? setting sprays. This is going to be your absolute holy grail when it comes to keeping your makeup in place, to kind of combating that oil. My absolute favourite is my one size one. This is actually the second bottle I've been through. I've been through quite a lot, but my absolute budget friendly one that I go through cans and cans and cans of it is my L'Oreal Infallible setting spray. I swear by this. Honestly, L'Oreal, please bring out a massive hair size big hairspray can version, because I absolutely love this. I went to a wedding a few months ago and it was roasting in the heat. I stuck this on at about 10-11 o'clock. I didn't get home till past midnight. I did douse my face in this before I went. I did not have to touch up my makeup once. I absolutely swear by this. It is like £10-11 and I probably go through one of these every other week. But setting sprays are going to be your absolute holy grail when it comes to your makeup as well, so make sure you pick the right one. To keep it budget friendly, I'm going to go in with my L'Oreal Infallible, and I just spray this over the top. So now you've done the rest of your face, you've done your eyes, you've done your lips. In terms of if you do need top ups whilst you're out, I wouldn't take a loose setting powder with you. I really wouldn't. I don't think that's a good idea. What I would take is a very tightly pressed translucent powder. This one from NARS is fantastic. I also have a really teeny tiny little miniature version, which is literally like that big, that I take out and about with me. Now I usually take that with a fluffy brush. You can take a small like powder puff, like your little Trigwell one, but I just take a little brush and then I just touch up any little places as I need to as I go along. I find that this is the best thing, because if you are having photos taken whilst you're out, this won't give you any sort of flashback Marys, and it is so lightweight that it doesn't feel like you're caking yourself with powder whilst you're out. I would just literally just dab it on any places. I find that I get a little bit of oiliness there and there, and I get it around my brows. That is the best place to put it. And that is my oily girl routine. I feel like there are so many other options, so if anyone has got any little nice bits or anything that they swear by that's their holy grail, please let me know.